Thank you so much, Unati. As of course we continue then to make sense of what we've seen here at Nasrec so far, but also getting another sense of where things are in terms of the program. You would have heard earlier on when we were in conversation with NEC member Derek Ganekom, who says that reports have been tabled and now things are moving, at a pace where they are finding themselves trying to catch up. Because remember what happened yesterday with all of those issues around registration. Another NEC member joins us now for a conversation, Nomvula Mokonyane, who is in studio with us. Thank you so much, Ma, for your time.
Thanks, Bongiwe.
Let's start with where things are right now, because we do know reports have been tabled. What's happening in South Plenary now?
There's a presentation. We've had the presentation on the organizational report done by Deputy President, and then we now have the constitutional amendments being presented by Comrade Lamola. Then then going to have the financial report by Comrade TG, and then you'll have the IC report, then the Electoral Commission will come. But before the Electoral Commission comes, there must be the adoption of the reports. And the reports can only be adopted after the credentials have been adopted by a conference that is confirmed to be co-reading, attended by members of the ANC who qualify, and are represented by comrades from the leagues, as well as the 9 provinces and all the regional executive committees that also have been allocated to delegates.
Are you happy with how things are going so far?
I'm happy where we are now. I was a bit anxious yesterday because we were trying to find out where the problem was. And around 12 yesterday, midday, we understood where the problem was. And the following are the realities. This is the first conference of the ANC that we are running the accreditation, registration, and everything electronically using the new membership system. And unfortunately, we have had the 4 big provinces having their conferences without the use of the new membership system. And that on its own created a lot of glitches. You have had Gauteng went to conference, they didn't use the new system. The Eastern Cape went to conference, they didn't use the new system. Gauteng, KZN, Limpopo didn't, Limpopo used the new system, and the Northwest used the new system. The Free State has not gone to conference, so there is no infrastructure. The Western Cape has not gone to conference. So those big provinces that are bringing big delegates here had not used this, and amongst others, it's just the data of the membership in the system. Because for a conference, there's in the portal, you have a site for a conference that, what are the requirements for a conference? It must be Bongiwe and your official picture. So many of the delegates from those big provinces, Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, for example, and Gauteng, didn't have pictures. And you then had to have them sending those photos. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Upon arrival, we had to start now, take pictures, load them, and then update the status of the individual. So the work that was supposed to have happened 2 weeks ago was not done. Because when the province now comes with a final report of saying, here are the names of the delegates, you then are supposed to upload that information and then the names come with the pictures. Instead, comrades were sending pictures of themselves with their wives, their girlfriends, or the best pet in their house, a swimming pool, your social media status profile. So we had to deal with that. And in the course of dealing with that, we also had to deal with an unfortunate situation where the accreditation cards of the Free State were grabbed and they ran away with those accreditation cards. We had to deal with them and now change the entire...
Who grabbed them?
The delegation of the Free State. Very ill-disciplined. They came, they took some of the cards, others remained with our admin team. We had to now destroy everything and deactivate everything, change the color. So the color of the Free State has now had to now change and load afresh, because now you wouldn't confirm that they've taken Nomvula and left Bongiwe's card. We had to do that. So because of that as well, you had to redo the Free State. So the Free State was the last, precisely because whilst we had completed everything, then it got taken away. This morning, the area that was taking us a bit of time was the replacements, where a confirmed delegate is no longer coming. Then the province, the branch, and the person who's no longer coming have to now send us letters to confirm, because we really want to be strict that it is not anybody who's been appointed by anyone who must be here. It must be somebody elected. Remember, with this conference, every delegate has to be elected in a branch general meeting. So to substitute, it can't be just a nigga like exchange. So those are the things we dealt with.
It sounds to me, though, that some of these things could have been dealt with ahead of time, and they were not. And that's then bringing me to my next question. Some people have said, given what happened with registration, and some have called it clumsy, some have called it disorganized, and they say this is a reflection of the ANC. How do you respond?
That's not true. Show me an organization that has got delegates as big as these ones. Secondly, as I've said, you have had a new system that we are using for the first time. I've heard that financial institutions have also had their systems collapsing. Any system is bound to have challenges, and as I've said, the big sending provinces didn't actually comply, and where they have complied, the information was not complete, and I think one of the things that we must accept is that we must now insist on pre-registration from at a province, so that we don't then have everybody coming in here. You know, part of it had to do again with an overhaul of leadership. You have all the provinces, most of them have got new leaders, and taking these things seriously has also been a challenge.
Are the people that ran away with the tags from the Free State going to be disciplined? What happens next?
We've met with the Free State leadership, and we have said to them, because they were on site, those that are known must actually be attended to, and those that know who sent those people, they must also deal with them.
As things stand right now, is the registration process complete? How many members do you have, delegates do you have in good standing? Where do things stand on that front?
I think we are good to go. When the time comes for the presentation, the report will be made. Comrade Senzo will present the credentials report.
Are you foreseeing any challenges there?
No, you know what is good again with the NC process? We've become smarter and organizational. The credentials are not a generation of a report by a team sitting somewhere. We've got the regional secretaries there, we've got the provincial secretaries there. Before they reach plenary, they would have actually been engaged upon by the regions, as they were doing now in the morning, and now the provincial secretaries, having been part of that process, will come before the conference preparatory committee, not even plenary. The conference preparatory committee, provincial leaders will attest on the number of delegates they have and stuff, and then Comrade Senzo then will present the totality of everything.
We cannot not talk about yesterday. Just before the president tables his political report, we then see the entrance of former President Jacob Zuma, and then there are some delegates there who are starting to sing and they chant songs and almost really disrupting what needed to happen, and that lasted for just about 20 minutes. What are your views on what happened?
You know, where we operate, we didn't have any screens. We didn't know everything. We're preoccupied with doing this. But fortunately, we're in touch with the leaders of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal. And I think credit must be given to them. It took them to make sure that there is order, the chairperson and the other PEC members. And I think it is also a reflection of the conditions in the ANC. But it is an unfortunate thing. It could have been avoided. There are rules also of the conference. The rules were circulated everywhere. in terms of arrival on time, in terms of disruption, and also in terms of calling a point of order and so forth. And I think part of what, for me, having heard of what happened there, is that every leader, every delegation, we expect their leaders to behave in the way that the KZN leaders did.
So was former President Jacob Zuma in violation of the rules by arriving just before the political report is tabled?
No, he was not in violation of the rule. I think those that were in violation of the rule were the delegates, because the rules say no delegate must actually sing whilst somebody is on the podium, no howling whilst there's somebody on the podium or on the floor.
And you say that what happened is a reflection of the conditions. How would you describe the condition within the ANC? Because the president, in his political report yesterday, does admit that as the ANC, you're not as united as you ought to be, and signaling that you are not singing from the same hymn sheet. We've seen it in public, and some difference of opinion even towards a conference and what happened in Parliament as well. So in your view, how do you describe these conditions that you talk about?
He's correct. I describe them in the same way as he does. I've been open about the challenges of the current NEC, and I think going forward we need leaders, especially once you are elected in the NEC. Subjectivity must be put aside, and subject yourself to working with everybody, even those that you wouldn't have preferred to have them elected.
Your fellow NEC member was sitting on the same chair, Derek Ganegom. He says that this is the most difficult NEC, and he agrees that it's the most difficult, divided. And listening to Tony Ngeni as well, speak to my colleague Natasha Piri, talking about these divisions as well. But he then says that those who are talking about the difficulties within this NEC, they themselves are to blame for some of what has been happening here. He goes further to even suggest that, Tony Ngeni has not been attending some of the national working meetings that, National Working Committee meetings that he should have then been attended. And some of those that are complaining about this particular NEC, they themselves are the problem.
Did he tell you how many meetings did Pravin Gordhan attend?
He didn't.
That's it.
So he's been missing meetings too?
Absolutely. Sometimes he comes, he presents, and he walks away. He doesn't attend the full meeting. He comes, he reports, and he leaves. So I think it's again a reflection of what I said. And as you were referring to Comrade Derek, who, by the way, me and him have a funny relationship. We come a long way together, but we are poles apart on things. But the good thing, we respect each other. So I think he is correct, but I think what was missing was objectivity in what he is raising, because we know how him and Tony behave, and I think it's unfortunate that coming for an interview, all that he will actually talk about is to single out Comrade Tony, and hence now I'm creating a balance of saying, by the way, even Pravin. And just on that level itself, some people don't miss NEC meetings but hardly do constituency work. Some people speak a lot in the ANC but hardly attend their own branch meetings. How do you lead a membership that you don't actually have time to service?
And I wish we had more time, but I'd really like us to get to another issue just before we wrap up. This issue of women in leadership in the ANC. We're seeing only 2 candidates. You're one of those, for the Deputy Secretary General position against Phoebe Potgieter. There is, and we're also, of course, seeing the Women's League trying to put forward the name of Methandi Modise when they pronounced their own wishes of what they would like to see, but that did not translate to what we then saw from the Electoral Committee. Where are the problems? What's going on? How much blame do women in the ANC also take for the turn of events? Because we are also seeing the Women's League itself, when it pronounced what it would like to see, pointing at a man to say, have a second term. What is going on there?
Part of the problem is that we've got a task team of the Women's League that is not whose interests are not about women, but it's about them being relevant to factional politics. That's where we are. Even if you would have had the Women's League nominating one woman or two women, at least because of history and purpose of the Women's League being advocacy, uniting women and stuff, they should have also been able to bring all women that are nominated by the ANC branches and make them to understand how they arrive at a particular process. But what has happened is that it's the task team of the ANC Women's League alone, not branches of the Women's League. And that's what makes me happy, that I may not be their preferred candidate and many others. The setback here, Bongiwe, is that we've got the weakest NEC. Two, we've got...
And you're part of it?
Yes, I'm part of it, and I've accepted. And I can attest to what I'm doing, but collectively I take the blame. But we've got the Women's League that is not a task team of the Women's League that is not seeking. Mamuluku was considered on the ground. Sisko Sazana was, Tandi Mudise was, and I saw them putting my face on one poster for 2 days. I don't know what happened, and I was surprised because in their formal meetings they never put me there. But the good thing is that branches of the Women's League have put me in.
And we're out of time. 5 seconds. Do you take responsibility as a leader, as a woman within the ANC, for where things are right now as far as women are concerned in the party?
Yeah, I'm part of the ANC, and I think we all have to take the blame, because some of us, not me, some of us who are in leadership positions have become drum majorities of patriarchy and factional interests.
All right, I hope we speak again after the election results are out and see.
When I'm the DSG.
Oh, okay, so you're calling yourself the incoming DSG, Unathi, calling herself the incoming Deputy Secretary General of the ANC. Let's see what then happens when the election results actually are announced. And Unathi, there's even that process of credentials that we've seen in some of the provincial conferences as the sticking point. I wonder here how things are going to unfold. It's back to you in studio.